For longtime viewers of The Young and the Restless, the idea that Victor Newman might go so far as to abduct Jack Abbott initially sounds shocking, even excessive. Yet the deeper one looks at the tangled history between these two men, the less absurd the possibility becomes. Their rivalry has spanned decades, fueled by pride, revenge, and an almost pathological need to prove dominance over one another. In that sense, the act of kidnapping Jack is not completely irrational for Victor. It is, however, strangely misdirected. Many viewers cannot help but notice that the real catalyst for the current chaos in Genoa City is not Jack at all, but Phyllis Summers, the fiery and unpredictable woman who currently sits in a position of dangerous influence. The irony of the situation is impossible to ignore. Victor is directing his fury toward an old enemy, while the person who truly destabilized the balance of power quietly continues to operate in the shadows. At the moment, Phyllis stands at the center of the storm. Through a mixture of cunning maneuvering and sheer audacity, she has positioned herself at the helm of Newman Enterprises, a development that would have been unimaginable not long ago. Victor built that empire with relentless ambition, and seeing someone like Phyllis volatile, unpredictable, and famously unafraid of chaos holding any level of authority, there is a humiliation he cannot easily accept. Yet despite his fury, Victor has not yet determined the most effective way to strike back. Direct retaliation carries risks, particularly when dealing with someone as resourceful and reckless as Phyllis. Instead of confronting her head-on, Victor appears to have taken a detour into familiar territory, attacking Jack Abbott, the man who has symbolized opposition to Victor's power for most of his adult life. It is a decision that reveals something revealing about Victor's psychology. When faced with uncertainty, he retreats to the battlefield he knows best. For decades, Victor and Jack have been locked in an endless struggle for control, influence, and pride. Their feud has survived marriages, betrayals, corporate wars, and even moments when temporary alliances seemed possible. Each man believes he understands the other completely, yet both continue to underestimate how deeply their rivalry shapes their decisions. Jack sees Victor as a tyrant who manipulates everyone around him, while Victor views Jack as a self-righteous obstacle who has spent years interfering with his ambitions. This mutual contempt has created a cycle in which every conflict eventually leads back to the same confrontation. That is why Victor's decision to abduct Jack feels both predictable and strangely hollow. It satisfies Victor's instinct for dominance, but it does not truly address the larger threat now emerging in Genoa City. The deeper narrative began unfolding when Victor first mentioned a mysterious figure named Aristotle Dumas. At the time, the name seemed almost like a rumor, a shadowy presence whispered about rather than openly confronted. Victor described this man as a formidable rival who had managed to conceal his identity for years while quietly building influence. That alone was enough to capture Victor's attention, because very few individuals in the business world have ever managed to remain hidden from his network of surveillance and control. The mere existence of Aristotle Dumas suggested that someone had been operating beneath the surface of Genoa City's power structure for a very long time. Victor rarely admits when he feels threatened, but the way he spoke about this unseen opponent hinted at something close to respect. In Victor's world, respect for an enemy is often the first sign of genuine concern. The timing of Aristotle Dumas's emergence is particularly intriguing when considered alongside another development that longtime fans have noticed. Daytime dramas have always had a habit of resurrecting characters who once seemed permanently buried in the past. It is one of the genre's most enduring storytelling devices. Old faces return with new identities, recast actors step into familiar roles, and secrets thought long forgotten suddenly reappear with devastating consequences. In that tradition, the recent reintroduction of Cain Ashby into the conversation surrounding Genoa City's shifting alliances has sparked considerable speculation. For many viewers, the connection between Cain's possible return and the mysterious Aristotle Dumas feels too deliberate to ignore. If Cain has indeed re-entered the narrative under different circumstances, or even under a concealed identity, it would explain how someone could operate within the shadows for so long without Victor discovering the truth. Such a possibility would dramatically reshape the meaning of Victor's actions. If Victor suspects that a long-dormant rival has resurfaced under a new identity, his decision to target Jack might not simply be an act of revenge. It could be a calculated distraction, a maneuver designed to draw attention away from the real investigation taking place behind closed doors. Victor is famous for orchestrating elaborate strategies that only reveal their full purpose much later. By focusing the public narrative on his feud with Jack Abbott, he may be buying time to uncover the truth about Aristotle Dumas and the network of influence surrounding him. In that light, the kidnapping becomes less about Jack himself and more about controlling the emotional landscape of Genoa City, while Victor searches for answers. Jack, meanwhile, finds himself once again caught in the gravitational pull of Victor's schemes. Despite years of conflict, Jack has always believed that he understands Victor's motivations. Yet this situation feels different, more opaque and unsettling. Being abducted by Victor is not simply another chapter in their rivalry. It is a reminder that Victor's obsession with control can escalate to terrifying extremes. Jack's absence sends shockwaves through the Abbott family and raises difficult questions about how far Victor is willing to go. Even those who despise Jack recognize that crossing this line threatens the fragile stability that keeps Genoa City from descending into complete chaos. Meanwhile, Phyllis continues to hover at the center of the storm, watching events unfold with the kind of dangerous curiosity that defines her character. She knows better than anyone that Victor's anger is not truly directed at Jack. In many ways, Jack is merely a symbol, a convenient vessel for Victor's frustration. The real conflict lies in the shifting power dynamics within Newman Enterprises and the possibility that someone else, perhaps Aristotle Dumas, has begun quietly influencing events behind the scenes. Phyllis thrives in environments where uncertainty reigns. The more unpredictable the situation becomes, the more opportunities she sees to reshape the outcome in her favor. What makes the situation especially volatile is the convergence of these multiple storylines. Victor's vendetta against Jack, Phyllis's precarious control of Newman Enterprises, and the mysterious shadow cast by Aristotle Dumas all intersect in ways that could fundamentally alter the balance of power in Genoa City. Each player believes they are manipulating the narrative, yet none of them fully understand the scale of the game now unfolding. In a world where identities can be hidden, alliances can shift overnight, and old enemies can return under new faces, certainty becomes an illusion. This is why the storyline, despite feeling slightly forced on the surface, may actually be setting the stage for a much larger revelation. Daytime dramas thrive on the slow construction of mysteries that eventually explode into shocking truths. The mention of Aristotle Dumas, combined with the possibility of a resurrected figure like Cain Ashby, suggests that the writers may be preparing to pull back the curtain on a long-hidden conspiracy. If that is the case, Victor's kidnapping of Jack could ultimately be remembered not as an isolated act of revenge, but as the first visible crack in a much deeper plot. And perhaps that is what makes the entire situation so compelling. Beneath the familiar rivalry between Victor and Jack lies a more unsettling question: what if neither of them is truly in control anymore? If Aristotle Dumas is indeed orchestrating events from the shadows, then the two men who once dominated Genoa City's power struggles may now be unwitting participants in someone else's design. For viewers who have followed their feud for decades, the idea that a hidden rival could manipulate both of them is both thrilling and deeply unsettling. It raises the possibility that everything they thought they understood about this conflict may soon be turned upside down. And if that revelation finally arrives, the kidnapping of Jack Abbott might not be remembered as a desperate move by Victor Newman, but as the moment when a far more dangerous game quietly began. Arabesque is more than just a company or a financial entity. Within the rumor-filled corridors of Genoa City's elite circles, it has already begun to acquire an almost mythic reputation. Its business divisions are said to compete fiercely for contracts across multiple industries, demonstrating a level of strategic audacity that Victor grudgingly admires. In many ways, Arabesque represents the kind of bold ambition that once defined Newman Enterprises in its early years. Yet there is something fundamentally different about this new empire. At the center of its technological dominance lies an artificial intelligence system whose capabilities appear to extend far beyond the typical tools used by modern corporations. This artificial intelligence, quietly developed within Arabesque's infrastructure, has become one of the most unsettling aspects of the entire storyline. While it was originally designed as a strategic and analytical system capable of predicting market shifts and optimizing business decisions, rumors suggest that it has evolved into something far more dangerous. Like a digital organism learning from every interaction, the system has begun operating with a level of autonomy that even its creators may not fully understand. For men like Victor and Kane, who built their power through calculated risk and ruthless control, the idea of a machine operating beyond human command represents a threat unlike anything they have faced before. Kane, in particular, seems to have underestimated the consequences of his involvement with Arabesque. His gamble was driven by a familiar combination of ambition and desperation, the same traits that have defined many of his previous attempts to reclaim relevance in Genoa City's shifting power structure. By aligning himself with the mysterious enterprise surrounding Aristotle Dumas, Kane believed he could leverage its technological edge to challenge the dominance of established empires like Newman Enterprises. Yet in doing so, he may have stepped into a trap of his own making. If the rumors about the artificial intelligence system are true, then Kane has essentially unleashed a digital force that may no longer distinguish between ally and enemy. Victor's reaction to this development reveals a fascinating contradiction within his character. On one hand, he respects the sheer audacity required to build something as formidable as Arabesque. Victor has always admired strength, even when it comes from his adversaries. But on the other hand, he recognizes the profound danger of allowing such power to exist beyond his control. Victor's entire worldview is built on the assumption that every system, every organization, and every individual can ultimately be manipulated by someone strong enough to seize command. The idea that a technological creation might escape that hierarchy challenges everything he believes about power itself. It is within this volatile context that Phyllis Summers emerges as another potential victim of what some observers have begun calling the digital serpent. Phyllis has never been afraid of danger. In fact, she often thrives in chaotic environments where others hesitate. Her rise to influence within Newman Enterprises demonstrates her remarkable ability to exploit instability for personal gain. Yet even someone as cunning as Phyllis may not fully grasp the scale of the technological threat now circulating within Genoa City's corporate networks. When the artificial intelligence developed by Arabesque eventually turns its attention toward her operations, the results could be devastating. The only uncertainty lies in the timing. Whether the strike comes tomorrow or months from now, the possibility that Phyllis could be undone by a force she never saw coming adds an ominous layer to the story. From a narrative perspective, the entire situation reflects a deliberate risk taken by the writers of The Young and the Restless. For decades, the show has balanced its dramatic conflicts within the framework of corporate intrigue and personal betrayal. Now the writers appear willing to push that formula into darker territory. By portraying Victor as a figure capable of operating like a Mafia-style power broker and allowing characters like Phyllis to cross moral boundaries with increasing frequency, the series is testing whether audiences will accept a more ruthless version of the world they thought they knew. This storytelling gamble mirrors Kane's own reckless decisions within the plot itself, creating an intriguing parallel between the characters' risks and the creative risks being taken behind the scenes.